Dreams do come true. I'm here with my new friend, Jacob Horne.
It's crazy seeing you here, man.
Yeah.
What are the odds? We just happened to be at the same table at the same restaurant.
Super low. I had a board meeting scheduled today, but I decided, I'm like, hey, Jacob Horne's speaking at this thing, and they also want you to come too. And I'm like, all right, let's go. If Jacob's going to be there, let's sponsor it.
Man, and so we were talking about this earlier with the rest of the team, like how surreal it is. So, we just left the ISC² East Bay chapter end of year meeting. And it was really cool because everybody in the audience was like, it was a mixture of people who were brand new to cybersecurity, like current students getting into cybersecurity, and people who have been in security for 30, 40 years, and everybody in between. And it's always surreal. Anybody wants to listen to anything I have to say about anything personally, but it's definitely surreal whenever you get asked to go to an end of year meeting for a major ISC² chapter, and there's people just starting their careers and they want to hear what I'd have to say. So I tried to frame it as much as possible, and like, here's what I've gone through and what I've learned, and it's probably valuable for you, and it doesn't have to be a blueprint or a framework for anybody. But it was a good time. Met a lot of cool people, and I mean, you get to meet you guys first and finally.
Yeah, Adam's going to be so jealous. Adam Johnson. You have fanboys at Paramify. And girls.
Sacred.
We're equal opportunity. We have lots of them. All sorts of dance. Agreed. I remember just kind of happening into my career in cybersecurity, and I honestly should have gone to more events like this. Because as always, Jacob's still in the show. I joke about it a lot, how I am such a bad fit for cyber. And I think if my path is just so weird getting into it, but going to these events, you're going to learn and kind of soak it in. And you're not going to learn it all one time. You got to really stay with it. So really interesting thing. So crazy CMMC. It's real now. It's a profit.
It is super real.
CMMC profit.
It is super real. We were talking about this on the way over to dinner, and it's like, when I started, well, first of all, I think everybody definitely has a weird path into security because, everybody that I know, everybody that's talking at these events, they're like, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. And I ended up sort of in that space. And I think it's pretty common, which is why the events are valuable, because you hear that story over and over again. And so for the people who are getting into the industry, they don't have to feel like there's some set formula. I don't think I've met a single person who was like, oh yeah, my career in cybersecurity is just like I drew it up, exactly how I planned it out. It's always some meandering thing, which for me, talking about meandering and ending up doing stuff, I'm the CMMC guy. Not at all what I thought it was going to be. And yeah, it's real, man. It is absolutely 100% real.
That is interesting, huh? Because I got into, my first job was not security. I guess it was an auditor, which is actually, I guess, security roundabout way. But it is interesting because there's a lot of cybersecurity programs now, so kids are getting right into it. That's pretty awesome. I do think that there's an advantage, though, to maybe finding your way into it, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because cybersecurity it's not one little thing. One of our maxims at Paramify is that it takes a village to raise a security program.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody, it affects everybody, and you need to get everyone on the same page. Really tough for CMMC, right? Because it is really far-reaching.
The whole CMMC story is like the story of a set of different villages, all made up of themselves smaller villages, and none of them agree with each other. Yeah, the whole story is just totally crazy. But yeah, man, it's been super interesting, and just in terms of like the thing I was talking about at the end of your meeting today, like my main advice to new people in the industry was just to foster your curiosity, because the cyber world is so big that what you are interested in the most, or the thing that you might have the aptitude for the most, is maybe not what you start out doing. It's probably not what you're going to start out doing, and if you're sort of continuously following your curiosity, you'll end up learning or diving into things that would otherwise be pretty boring. So the example that I give for everybody is, I wanted to learn how to do malware analysis, is to take malware school. It is cool. Super cool. If you want to learn about malware and you find it very interesting, you could very easily end up learning assembly like assembly language to do malware reversing and analysis. But if you started out and you're like, how do I get into security? And you said, you should learn assembly. You're not going to be like, you're going to filter out a lot of, it's just not going to work. Right. And so for me, my poison was NIST controls.
Yeah.
And people, I hear talk to people all the time and they're like, how do you stand it? And so boring. And C2, and I just can't get enough, man. I just can't get enough. But my curiosity about them allowed me to like read through them, understand them, translate them. And there turned out to be a lot of value in translating them now in regulatory systems like CMMC, and before it was just a curiosity that I'd had, and it turned into this whole phase of my career. So that was really the thing I was trying to stress to everybody at the meeting was you might not know at the beginning, you probably don't know at the beginning. So just be as curious as possible.
Yeah, for me, that's so great about NIST. It's so complete. For me, I just had an assignment and I just finally got through it, and then I had another one and I got through it again, and then I had another one, and eventually you're like, oh, okay, now I actually understand what they're talking about, the principles of it. It takes me a long time to get things, but once it's there, it's great. For me, in my cybersecurity career, it was like, man, how do I just get out of this? Right away, I freaking hate this. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, life's too short. And I talked to my wife. I'm like, Angie, life's too short. Come on.
So you wanted to pivot out and just when you started?
I totally did. And so, yeah, so I started another company.
That usually comes later. Am I right?
I know. Yeah. Just how to do life, just don't do what Kenny did. I remember dropping my acceptance letter and just feeling kind of a pit in my stomach that always showed up every Sunday night, right? I'm like, oh my gosh. For me, I found that it was just overwhelmed, right? Because it's just so foreign and I don't really understand why things are important. And if I don't understand why, it's hard to be motivated. But for me, I kind of pivoted out. I wanted to do more technical things. I'm a creative person. And so my friend had a really good idea and I'm like, that sounds awesome. I'm like, price line for local merchants. I'm like, dude, it's awesome. I'm like, we're going to be billionaires, huh? And he's like, yeah, totally. And then we didn't know what we were doing, right? And we were solving a problem that no one was ever going to pay us money for unless we got crazy, chicken and egg grubber in mass. And then Uber thing, or not Uber, but freaking what's the one? Groupon. Groupon came. And I was like, 18, that's awesome. Well, I'm like, that's awesome. But I got really technical. I accidentally took out a rack at a data center with a bad script.
That's how it happens a lot. People are like, whoops, now I got to repair this thing and put it back together.
I just didn't put an upper bound on it. I wanted to go faster, and it went faster. It was awesome. They took it out, and got some emails and some phone calls late at night. I'm like, dang, I suck at this. I'm such a bad engineer. Anyway, then I have kids, right? And I need to take care of them. So I'm like, okay, well, I had a heart to heart with an angel. It's like, I really like building stuff. And she's like, so what do you hate about your job? I'm like, just generate stuff.
Yeah, that's enough. That's a tough spot, man.
And then she's like, you can't say that. She's like, you gotta where is it? And, I kind of just focused on those, Stephen Covey, thank you so much. That's awesome. Stephen Covey's book, he talks about how as you focus on the things that are really painful for you and they're in your sphere of influence grows, right? Because other people have that thinking. And really, it became about helping us.
Yeah.
Right? Being like, how do we make this approachable to things? And all of a sudden, just 2.5, 3 years into it, I'm good enough not to get fired at my job. It totally switched for me.
Wow. Yeah, it sounded like such a valuable service that on the whole ecosystem with FedRAMP and everything, it would be a huge bummer if you had said, I'm out. And Paramify just never happened. I would have that's not good for anybody.
Right. I'm sitting watching all these influencers as following their passion. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I feel like I should just follow my passion, right?
Now we're making content at a fancy restaurant.
Yeah, this is
it out.
We always come in.
pumpkin flatbread for God's sake.
Let's go for the pumpkin bread.
It's pretty influencer-ish, you know what I mean?
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, man, anytime.